Today on episode number 388 of the School of Podcasting's morning announcements, you're going to write this one down, schoolofpodcasting.com/388. You guys rock. You really do. I asked you the question, if you had to pick one podcast, just one, what would it be? And you guys answered, and you answered great. I love it. We're going to not only find out what was your favorite, but why. Hit it, ladies.
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson. Yeah.
Wait. No music. No music today. This is a long show. Get comfy. And I'm not going to, the whole podcasting, look, I'm Dave Jackson, been podcasting. I'm your podcast coach. Schoolofpodcasting.com is where you want to learn how to podcast. Howtopodcast.com is where you can sign up for my January 18th, that's right around the corner, class, where we will teach you how to podcast live every Saturday. And, of course, you can always contact me at schoolofpodcasting.com/contact. Couple quick updates. Monday at 11:40 a.m. to 12:40 a.m., this will be at the New Media Expo. We're doing a Podcasters Roundtable live. This is Monday, January 6th, 11:40 to 12:40 p.m. Now, here's the deal. A lot of things are changing quickly with New Media Expo. And what you can do is you can hear what I'm up to, what's going on, any quick feedback by going to schoolofpodcasting.com/N as in Nancy, M as in Mary, X updates. Schoolofpodcasting.com/NMX updates. You can also follow me on Twitter at Learn to Podcast. My session with Ray Ortega from podcasterstudio.com, Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity to Podcast.com is also on Monday. That is at 1:45 p.m. We're doing the Grow Your Audience, your podcast audience from hundreds to thousands. And that's really where I'm going to be. I wanted to kind of connect with a meetup and things like that. And to make a long story short, just can't get a hold of the right people, things like that. And I thought, you know what, here are two places I'm going to be. And if you want to, again, follow me on Twitter if you're there. And you know what? Screw it. If you're at the expo, here's my phone number. Yeah, I am. Did you hear everybody? He's going to give out his, because I want to connect with people. If you're at the expo, now realize if I'm in a session, I may not answer it. 234-542-0893. That will go right to my cell phone. It's not actually my cell phone number. It's my Google number. So if you're a weird, crazy psycho, I can block you, just for the record. No offense if you're a weird, crazy psycho. But 234-542-0893. So that, my Twitter, learntopodcast.com, and nmxupdates.com. Shut up, Dave, and get to the clips. All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes. I want to thank everybody who sent in their pick for top podcast ever. There's only one person that I'm going to look at and kind of play it in order, and that is because Max Flight was the very first person that replied. And so here, let's listen to Max together as he explains, if he had to pick one podcast, what would he listen to?
Hi, Dave. This is Max Flight.
Hey, Max.
From the Airplane Geeks podcast, also the UAV Digest podcast. So pick just one favorite podcast. That's really, really tough. Let's see. One podcast, my favorite Oh, well, that would be your podcast, Dave, of course. School of Podcasting. Maybe that's not what you had in mind.
Not really.
Let's see. One podcast. My podcast. No, that's probably not what you
wasn't looking for that either.
I know. Betty in the Sky with a Suitcase. This is great. Betty's an airline flight attendant. She's been podcasting for years, and what she does is she gives us stories of things that she encounters as she travels. Well, these stories, they're hysterical. It's stuff you could never make up. But also, she's got this totally lovable personality. She's witty, she's smart, she's humble. Humble's big with me. She's the flight attendant that we all wish that we could encounter when we travel. Enough on that. If you listen to her episodes, you know pretty much all there is to know about Betty, and you just might fall in love with her. Did I say that out loud? Well, anyway, it's not just me. Not too long ago, a musician composed and professionally recorded for her a song to the tune of Benny and the Jets, by Elton John, except it's Betty and the Jets. It's just brilliant. Anyway, her homepage is bettyinthesky.net, which takes you to kind of all the things that she does, including to her podcast, which is at betty.libsyn.com. That's Betty in the Sky with a Suitcase, probably my absolute favorite podcast.
Very cool. Now, here's what I like about that. Number one, he said one of my favorite kind of buzz phrases, behind the scenes. And number two, if you're reading Gary Vaynerchuk's book, whatever it is, jab, 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 right hook, uppercut, uppercut, whatever the name of the book is, he talks about storytelling and how powerful it is. And very, very cool. So, Max, thank you very much. You can find him at airplanegeeks.com. One down and more to go. I think we have about 20 of these, so it'll be fun. This is Scott Johnson from Computer Tutor. Well, here, he'll explain it.
Hey, Dave, this is Scott Johnson, the Computer Tutor. You asked us to let you know what one podcast we cannot live without. Well, for me, it's a weekly podcast called Security Now. It's hosted by Leo Laporte and Steve Gibson. And of course, everyone knows who Leo Laporte is. He's the tech guy. He has a radio show. And his co-host, Steve Gibson, is the creator of SpinRite, which is a program for hard drive maintenance and even some data recovery. Well, they do a show each week that runs about an hour, hour and a half, and they talk about everything related to computer security. And I'll tell you, it gets extremely technical. They talk about passwords, internet scams, viruses, just about anything related to personal computer security. The podcast itself doesn't have its own website, but you can get some information at Steve's company website, which is grc.com/securitynow, or just Google Security Now podcast. The other reason I like it is because it keeps me on the cutting edge of what's going on, and that's information that I can often pass on to my own podcast listeners. I do the Computer Tutor podcast every Monday morning, and each show is about 10 minutes or so, and I talk about a computer tip or trick or something that people need to know about. And the information for that is at my website, which is computertutorflorida.com. Thanks very much, Dave. Keep up the great work.
Scott, thank you so much. Have a great, happy new year. And computertutorflorida.com. The thing I love about this is, and you will too, I'm hearing podcasts that I've never, ever heard of before. Never heard of that one before. And again, these will be out in the show notes. If you want to check them out, just go to schoolofpodcasting.com/389. Now, not only will you see the links, I actually have a PDF of this all put together. So you can actually download these and share it with your friends. Next up, Bill Hutchinson. Take it away,
Hi, Dave. This is Bill Hutchison from the Youth of the Mission News Podcast.
See, some of these start up quick and some of them don't. I'm doing these live. I want to listen to these with you live because, to be honest with you, I listened to these when they first came in. I want to listen to them together.
Hi, Dave. This is Bill Hutchison from the Youth of the Mission News Podcast at ywwampodcast.com, where we share some of the stuff that our organization is doing around the world, including the relief work that we're currently doing in the Philippines after the typhoon went through there.
I'm going to stop Bill right there. When he says YWAM and you're like, what? It's YWAM. When he says YWAM, that's it. It's used with a mission.
On the last episode of your podcast, you asked, what is your favorite podcast if you could only choose one? Well, let me just tell you a bit of a story. When we first moved here to Australia, the only option we had for internet was to go wireless. And the biggest wireless that we could get was 10 gigabytes. So during the first 3 or 4 months that we lived here, I could only download 2 podcasts a week. If I went over that, I would use more than the 10 gigabytes that we were allocated every month.
I now know my definition of hell. That would drive me crazy.
And so during that time, the 2 podcasts that I downloaded was actually yours, the School of Podcasting.
Wow.
And then also I downloaded the No Agenda Show with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. Now, since you said we could only pick one, I'm going to have to say sorry, Dave, but if I had to pick between those 2, I would probably pick the No Agenda Show with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak, which
I would too, by the way,
is at noagendashow.com. The No Agenda Show is a news analysis podcast. And so they take the news and they go deeper. than you will get on any mainstream show. They do something that I think we all wish our politicians would do, and they actually read the legislation and look at what it means and how it affects us. And
now, what does that mean again? That means they're going behind the scenes. They're giving you information that you don't normally get. I'm going to rewind him just a little bit. I realize I'm stepping all over Bill.
All wish our politicians would do, and they actually read the legislation and look at what it means and how it affects us. And they look at all the little hidden things that are hidden in the legislation that gets done. They also look at different events around the world, and they tie them together in a way that you won't really hear anywhere else. So that would be my number one favorite podcast, would be the No Agenda Show with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak. So Dave, thank you so much for the School of Podcasting. Like I said, it would be my second place one. And I think for all of us who listen, we really appreciate all that you share and all that you give to the community.
Hey, the fact that I'm a runner-up, I will take it. Especially if it's to the No Agenda Show. Next up, speaking of the No Agenda Show, hey, let's just keep it rolling here, shall we? The one, the only, don't be fooled by cheap imitations, Fred Castaneda. Looking forward to seeing him at New Media Expo. Fred, take it away.
This is Sergeant Fred over at Struggling Entrepreneur, www.strugglingentrepreneur.com. The absolute number one podcast that I don't want to be without happens to be No Agenda. That's a No Agenda Show. And it's located at www.noagendashow.com. And it stars Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak as co-hosts. The reason I like this is because they do not have an agenda. They tell basically a deconstruction of the current events today. They basically unmask the lies and all the scams that are out there by the government and by other firms so that you can know what the truth is. And as they say, they hit you in the mouth so that you can wake up and not believe the media. It's what they call media assassination. Not only current events and politics, but also other things that are going on that affect you behind your back. So I won't do without this show, even though it's 2-3 hours long. And the key thing here is that they're not in a scam to make money. They ask for money because it's a fully funded, donation-oriented show from what they call the producers or the sponsors, which is the audience. It's the value for value model, and I think that's probably the best model in podcasting. Anyway, that's the show that I would highly recommend to everybody else if they have the guts to be honest and they have the open mind to understand that everything that you hear out there isn't really the truth. Listen to the truth if you dare, and listen to the deconstructions from noagendashow.com. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you, Fred. Rocking as always. So yeah, that I think that's the only podcast that came up twice. They jokingly say they are the best podcast in the universe, and it would definitely be in my top 5, but it's not my top 1. I'll tell you that later. Next up, I believe this is Terry.
Hello, Dave Jackson. This is Terry Norda from the Discovering America podcast. My favorite podcast would be the Thomas Jefferson Hour. You can find it at www.jeffersonhour.com. On iTunes, it's called the Jefferson Hour. I find it fascinating and very entertaining. Clay Jenkinson is a notable historian and a scholar of the humanities. He portrays Jefferson in the time of Jefferson and then goes into the topics of today as if Jefferson was a politician today. You can find my podcast on iTunes at Discovering America, and I have a website at discoveringamerica-history.com. My podcast is about the discovery of America, events that have taken place that most likely a person has never heard before. And I want to thank you and your cohort, Daniel Lewis, for all the time and effort that you've put into this topic of podcasting. It has helped me immensely. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Speaking of Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity 2 podcast, let's listen to what he had to say.
Hi, Dave. This is Daniel J. Lewis from the Audacity2podcast.com. If I had to pick only one podcast, boy, would I be under such torment because there are so many great podcasts. But I think the one I would listen to would be the Late Nobody's Listening comedy podcast. It was hilarious, inspirational. Unfortunately, it's now retired. But that would be my one podcast, and that's over at podcast.nlcast.com.
And of course, Daniel, you can find him at theaudacitytopodcast.com. You can also check out his class. I actually have an affiliate link for this. If you go to schoolofpodcasting.com/masterclass, Daniel is doing a kind of a group coaching class live with him about taking your podcast, as they say, to the next level. Check that out, schoolofpodcasting.com/masterclass. Daniel, thank you so much. And that's a guy I'm glad I know that guy. He's a really cool guy. And next up we have Ken.
Dave Jackson, Ken Kassler here of the podcast Thinking Outside the Box. Hey, my all-time favorite, the one I couldn't live without if I was on a desert island, although I'd want to have my smartphone with me, is a show called Spark. And it's on the Canadian Broadcasting Network, CBC. And what the show is about is technology, a new breaking technology, in particular technology that affects our everyday lives. And the content is fascinating to me. The reason I like it is, A, the content is put together in a very palatable way. It's entertaining, and I love the sound of Nora Young's voice. My show, Thinking Outside the Box, can be found on bountifulproductions.com, and I call it a clearinghouse for new ideas and old ideas whose time has come. And I owe you a debt of gratitude, Dave. You've helped me through the process, and I expect by the time you broadcast this, I will have my subscribe via iTunes button up on my website. So come on over, bountifulproductions.com. Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Ken. Glad, man, your audio sounds great. And thank you so much for sharing. And sounds like a very interesting podcast. Next up, DJ City. Take it away.
Hi, Dave Jackson. This is DJ City from the Japan Experience Podcast. You asked us, what is our favorite show? Like podcast as is. Like, what's the podcast that we listen to the most? You know, we load it up, we listen to it immediately as soon as it comes out. And my answer is, it has to be the morning announcements that you do for the School of Podcasting, because honestly, it's the first podcast I boot up in the morning on a Monday when I'm going into work and I'm just feeling like, ugh, 6 a.m. in the morning. Oh, yes, that's right. I have a 1 hour commute on a transit bus to get to work. And I'm telling you, it is a hard ride to sit on, because you're just sitting there and you're just like watching the road and you just feel like, I could fall asleep, but you fight yourself to stay awake.
That's brutal.
Well, the morning announcements do it for me. It helps me on my commute to work, and then I go listen to it again and I write down notes because there's something that I might have missed. Sure, I play your show at like 1.5x.
Sure,
using my smartphone, but hey, I mean, that's why I like listening to it. I like listening to you because you're out there, you're giving us tips. You're not trying to sugarcoat it like some other podcasters do. You're not trying to sell us stuff like some other podcasters do. What you're trying to do is you're just trying to help us become better podcasters or learn how to podcast, which is great. But you asked me, what is my favorite podcast? And I'm going to have to say it's you and the School of Podcasting's morning announcements. Anyways, Dave, keep up the good work still, man. Hopefully your head hasn't grown to like 5 times your size, but honestly, you do a good job. And hopefully I'm not the only one that feels this way and put this out. Hopefully you got a couple other people that said it, but yeah, I'm going to say it's you. Anyways, I'm DJ City from the Japan Experience Podcast at jradio.net. That's JRAJIO.net.
Awesome. Wow. That really blows me away. It really does. My wife would be laughing right now. I do not take compliments well. I really don't. A lot of podcasts to listen to, and you're picking mine. Wow. Thank you. And it's interesting. Did you hear what he said, though? And weird, because I think I sell all the time. I'm always like, join the School of Podcasting. Howtopodcast.com. So I'm glad that you don't think that that's all I'm doing here. And it is. It's all about you guys. That's what this episode is about. I want to help people discover podcasting. I hope people feel I am more about podcasting than I am about myself, because of podcasting, the higher podcasting gets, my boat is in the podcasting water. So thank you very much. And wow. Next up, John Morgan.
Hey, Dave, I'm sorry I'm on the cell phone and calling you, but I can never remember when I'm at my desk.
John, I am happy to hear from you in whatever format you want, buddy.
This is John Morgan with Let's Talk Metal Detecting and Treasure Hunting, and you were asking what my favorite all-time podcast is.
How cool is that? Let's talk metal treasure and metal detecting. Talk about a niche audience. That is cool. I don't even have a metal detector. I want to listen to that podcast. How cool is that? When people talk about making a podcast about anything, metal detecting, yeah, pretty cool. Love it. All right, John, here he goes.
It's called Zen and the Art of Triathlon. It's on iTunes, and it's about triathlon, of course, but more than that, it's about a guy talking about triathlon, but he lets you in on his family, his friends. You get to know his wife, his kid. You get to hear him grow up. And you get tricks and tips and on exercise and fitness and nutrition. And it's just, most important thing about it is its companionship. It's like he's your friend, and he's been doing it forever. He's the first triathlon podcast. His name's Brett, and man, if you get a chance to listen to that, you'll learn so much about exercise, nutrition, and just, like I said, the companionship of having him. He'll take you on exercise rides, and when he's out on the bike, when he's running, and it's just, you've got to hear it to understand. Anyway, Zen and the Art of Triathlon. I think you'll like it.
Very cool, John. Thank you so much for sharing. Did you hear that? Number one, the guy does share a little bit about his life and insights. He gives you tips and tricks and insights. And what did that do? So stories and great content combined to John going, man, this guy's like my friend. It's like he's right there with me. Obviously, John feels a connection to that person. And to me, I just go, wow, that's really, really cool. I don't know about you, but the minute I get in the car, I got something on. When I get home and I'm doing nothing but changing my clothes, I turn on the TV. I think at our core as human beings, we do not like being alone. I know the worst thing ever is if I'm ever in a long car ride and I don't have anything to play for whatever reason, maybe the radio broke or whatever, I forgot my phone. If I am left with just my own thoughts, oh my goodness, and the 12 voices in my head, it's a long car ride, just like DJ City was talking about. So to me, this is why I love the whys of this whole little scenario here. It's very, very cool. And next up, we have Jackie. And the cool thing about this, he's going to quote the intro of his favorite show. And listen to the why on this one. This is a big one. This is a cool, really cool comment.
All right, so hi, Dave Jackson. My name is Jackie. My favorite podcast ever is... All right, so here we go. Still rocking after all these years. This is it. The show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA, online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show with the original rock and roll geek, Michael Butler. So, the show is Rock and Roll Geek Show, hosted by the one and only Michael Butler. It can be found at www.rockandrollgeek.com. The reason why this is my number one podcast is it's just because, he's a rock and roller, right? Like he's played bass with Exodus, American Heartbreak, Jet Boy, etc., etc. I don't like rock and roll. Like I'm a metalhead, but like he has this real incredible ability to like suck people in.
So I'm going to pause him for a second. He just said, I'm listening to a show that plays rock and roll. I don't even like rock and roll. Interesting.
The reason why he's able to do that is because he just keeps everything like honest. Like he's true to himself and he's true to his listeners. So I think people keep on coming back and back because they want to like learn more about him, his life. And trust me, his life is pretty interesting. He has like a community now of friends that he calls. It's simply like us, the listeners, but like it makes like the way he communicates through his podcasts, it really makes you feel like you are his friend. I think a lot of people, a lot of podcasters try to capture that, the magic that he has. And I don't think anybody out there really is able to do what Michael Butler does. So that is why Rock and Roll Geek Show is the best podcast out there ever. There's tons, but in particular, this one is my go-to. My name is Shaki. I host Metal Moment Podcast, as well as the Japanese metal hit show. It's just about metal. We do interviews with people like, if you like George Lynch, if you like Michael Schenker, bands like Saxon, Winery Dogs, White Snake. We do interviews, or I do interviews. 51% of it's 51-50 style, meaning 51% of the time it's in English, 50% of the time it's in Japanese. So it's like a bilingual show. So it can be found on iTunes. All right, thank you very much, Dave Jackson, and have a fantastic year. All right,
Out, my friend. Hey, first of all, I want to apologize for having the knocking sound in the background. I'm not cutting that out. That's my chat that I have going on here. It lets me know when somebody's on the website. But the cool thing there is it's real and it's honest. You also hear where he wants to get to know the host more. Now, Michael's revealed some pretty interesting stuff on the show. Michael's one of the few shows that I still listen to. I listen to the Rock and Roll Geek Show, and I listen to Dan Klass's The Bitterest Pill. Those are two shows that I've been listening to since 2005. There are others that I pop in and out. I pop in and out of Dawn and Drew. I pop in and out of Keith and the Girl. But those are two that I've never unsubscribed from. But it was real. He connects with them. He talks to people like they're your friends, just like I'm talking to you right now. And to me, I really, really loved that comment, and I love the why. So thank you very much, Jackie. And as a fan, as a person who grew up in the 80s, I'm definitely going to be checking out your podcast. And how cool is that? I would never think to do a bilingual show. Number one, because I don't speak more than one language. I speak bad British accent. That's about it. And but how cool is that? But the other thing, think about that. Think about how niche his audience is. By having it bilingual, you are cutting out, to a certain extent, half of your audience when you start talking Japanese. So that's a really interesting idea there. That's, to me, I was like, whoa, thinking outside the box. Very, very cool. Next up, we got Big Bad Bill with Sweet William Now.
Hey, Dave. This is Bill Barris from the Media Fiasco podcast at www.mediafiasco.com. And my podcast is essentially my irreverent and inappropriate take on news and pop culture. I like to think of it as the kind of news stories you don't hear on your grandmother's CNN. Now, I did a lot of thinking about if I had to pick one podcast to listen to for the rest of my life, well, what the heck do you pick? Well, if it came down to it, I would definitely pick the Mike O'Mara Show. And they're at www.mikeomarashow.com. Mike O'Mara is part of the old syndicated Don and Mike show from way back when. And I'll tell you, the humor that they bring makes me laugh out loud. And they have a daily podcast, and I never miss it. And I think the description of their show comes best directly from their website. And it says, The Mike O'Mara Show is a fun mashup of real life, pop culture, news of the day, dynamic audio clips, and three guys busting each other's balls. That's right in line with my humor, and I think it's a great show. So I encourage everybody out there to check out the Mike O'Mara Show, and also check out the Media Fiasco podcast if you have time. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thank you, Bill.
I appreciate it, and keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you, Bill. And that sounds like a funny one. And here's another thing. Never heard of this guy. Never heard of Michael Mayer, so I'll definitely be checking that one out. By the end of this episode, I'll have like 200 podcasts I'll be subscribed to. Next up, we have Darren.
Hello, Dave. This is Darren Dake with the Engaging Life and Leadership Podcast. Hey, listen, you ask us to tell you what our favorite podcasts are, and I consume a lot of podcasts. But I would have to say, if I could only have one on a deserted island, the one that I would have to have would be The Break by Father Roderick. And that can be found at thebreak.sqpn.com. And the reason I like that one is because it is a Catholic podcast, but he doesn't necessarily talk a lot about the Catholic religion, but he does talk about faith. But he talks about news and movies and travels and what's going on in the world. So it's usually about an hour-long podcast, and it covers a lot of different topics. And I guess I like his style, and I guess I like how he talks and what he does. And it's a good break for me from the podcast of how to podcast and tech reports and all the stuff that I consume, maybe for for my job type thing. And it's just a good break. It's very entertaining. And, that's what it's called, The Break. And again, that's with Father Roderick. And it can be found at thebreak.sqpn.com. And the other interesting thing about it is he is in the Netherlands. And so he's Dutch. And so although he speaks English, you can tell sometimes that he has trouble with some things and different culturals. And he talks about traveling to Rome and different places. It's just a very, very interesting podcast, and it covers a lot of topics. So again, that would be my number one podcast. If I couldn't listen to anything else, I would want that one. Dave, thanks again for all you do. I very much appreciate you. Have a great day.
Darren, thank you so much. Yeah, Father Roderick is cool. One of the guys I want to interview at New Media Expo. He has a new book out called, I think it's Priest Geek or something like that. It's his tales of kind of in podcasting. You can find Darren's podcast at EngagingLifeAndLeadership.com. Next up, we have Jeff Rutherford. Jeff, take it away.
Hi, Dave Jackson. This is Jeff Rutherford at the Reading and Writing Podcast. I'm calling in about your request for people to let you know about your favorite podcast. So my favorite podcast is a podcast called Mixergy, and that is Mixergy. You can find it at Mixergy.com. The host of Mixergy is a guy named Andrew Warner. And what is Mixergy? Mixergy is a interview podcast, both audio and video, primarily tech entrepreneurs. And the thing that appeals to me and that I find myself going back and listening over and over to Mixergy is just the quality of the interviews. Andrew has recorded hundreds of interviews with tech entrepreneurs, and he really gets beyond the typical Q&A, happy kind of headlines type of interview, which is, kind of self-congratulatory. He really, really digs into kind of the nuts and bolts of starting a business, most of them tech businesses online. Everything from how did you get your first customer, how did you make your first $100, to how did you make your first $1 million, what were the challenges in growing the business. And oftentimes many of the entrepreneurs have had failures or multiple failures before they reach the success. And Andrew really digs into those failures to figure out what kept those entrepreneurs going. And again, it's just the quality of the interviews. They're really raw and in depth, and really get into kind of the nuts and bolts. And if you're a podcaster, I'm not saying that if you go and listen to Mixergy that you're going to suddenly figure out how to grow a best-selling or best listened to podcast, but there are lots of takeaways from these interviews that you can extrapolate to your own podcasting experiences. So again, my favorite podcast, if I had to only listen to one, but I do listen to many, but my favorite podcast is Mixergy, Mixergy.com. And again, it's both video and audio and available in the usual places, iTunes, etc. And about my podcast is the Reading and Writing Podcast, and that's at readingandwritingpodcast.com. I've interviewed over 145 writers and novelists, so very different from Mixergy, but again, I've interviewed writers and novelists including Lee Child, David Morrell, Jeffrey Deaver, Margaret Cole, and many, many, many others. I really kind of try to dig into how they got started writing, what their first successes were as writers, what kept them going, and any advice that they may have for aspiring writers. And also, we usually talk about what they're reading and what they're enjoying and any books or writers that they would recommend. That's readingandwritingpodcasts.com. Again, thanks for the opportunity to let you know about my favorite podcast, which is Mixergy. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Jeff. And very cool. See how he's taking what he likes about this podcast, and he's saying, okay, I like the way Jeff is in depth. I like the way he has thorough interviews, and he takes that skill and uses it on his podcast. Very, very cool. Next up, we have Joe Consford. Joe, floor is yours, buddy.
Dave, this is Joe Consford from themorningmeditation.com, a daily podcast where we meditate on the Word of God every morning. I want to thank you for the School of Podcasting and your podcast that helped me make my show a better show every time I sit down behind the microphone. My favorite podcast, if I had to choose one, it would be Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas, because of the fact that it is a daily show filled with great content. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and almost every time the people he interviews will be on somebody else's podcast. But John Lee Dumas says they will eventually be on the Entrepreneur on Fire. And I think that if you listen to that show, if that was the only one you could listen to, you would get great content. And I love getting quotes from that show. I love to sit down and listen to it and write things down and take notes as I listen to it. Other podcasts, I listen to it while I'm driving, but that one, I have to sit down and really listen to it because you learn so much from that show. Thank you, Dave, and have a great day and a Merry Christmas.
There's a cool thing right there. The content is so good, I have to take notes. That's an interesting insight in there, right? He said, I listen to other ones, but that one, I gotta give my full undivided attention because it's so much better. I've got, and the quotes that they give, things like that, very interesting insights into that. So Joe, thank you so much for sharing on that. Next up, my buddy, Steve Stewart from Money Plan SOS. Steve.
Hey, Dave, it's Steve Stewart from the Money Plan SOS podcast. Check this out. I'm coming to you from my ATR 2100 that is plugged into a camera connection kit that goes into my iPhone using the BossJock app, which I'll then use to email to you as soon as I'm done recording.
Whoa. All right, everybody, can we just geek out on that for a second? He recorded this with a $40 microphone into his iPhone, into a $10 app. That, my friends, is pretty cool.
I mean, how cool is that?
That's very
so
cool.
Awesome. I just love technology. Hey, you were asking about my all-time favorite podcast. If I was stuck on an island, what podcast would I want to hear? Well, you know, I sat and thought about it for a while. I kept going back and forth with certain ones, but one kept popping up in my mind as my favorite. It's the Stacking Benjamins podcast. I'm big time in the personal finance scene. I listen to different shows that have to do with finance and personal finance just so I can find out what the enemies are saying and correct them later. But there's one show called Stacking Benjamins. It's not just a money show. A lot of the topics have to do with money topics, but it's done differently. The main host is Average Joe. He has a co-host named OG who sounds just like Doug McKenzie from Bob and Doug McKenzie. If you remember them, those guys, he sounds
take off your hoser, eh?
Just like him. So just hearing that guy's voice cracks me up, but they talk back and forth and there's just a nice chemistry between the two. But then they'll have a guy come in about a serious money topic. So you get the real serious, analytical piece. But then you'll have this guy named Doug who comes in and just does a trivia question. They might have an interview with somebody. Then they might have a guest spot from somebody else. But he almost always has a roundtable discussion about a personal finance topic. So you get 3 or 4 different opinions about a certain topic in every show. And it doesn't stop there. At the end, then he's going to talk with OG again, his co-host, about movies. And there's usually an Easter egg at the end. So the show goes about an hour long and it keeps changing. It's almost like a variety show. It's really cool. So Stacking Benjamins, my all-time favorite podcast. That's my vote. I think everybody should go check it out. Just to hear OG. This sounds just like Doug McKenzie. It cracks me up. So, hey, Dave, thanks for giving me this 2.5 minutes here to talk. I love you, man. Love your show. I love what you're doing. This is Steve Stewart from the Money Plan SOS podcast. And yes, you can podcast too. Take care.
Yeah, I love Money Plan SOS. Actually, I love both Steve thing. MoneyPlanSOS.com. If you're looking to get a handle on your finances, good stuff. And yes, you can podcast too, as in TOO.com. I definitely have that in my RSS reader. And here's the one thing I got out of that. As much as he said, look, this guy's going to do this, then he's going to do this, and then he's going to do that. So there are certain things that are staples, but he also said you never know what you're going to get. I'm paraphrasing here, but he mixes it up. And that's where I always say, I call that the Howard Stern effect. Because if you watch the movie Private Parts, they say that the reason most of his listeners listen is because they said, oh, you never know what you're going to get. And then the people that hated him listened even longer. And the reason why, they said, because you never know what you're going to get. So that is something that if you don't take that too far to an extreme to where it's just completely different every show, you have to have some sort of staples that are always in there. That's something you want to think about. Next up, by the way, thank you, Steve. Steve is a great, and by that I mean great guy. Steve Stearns.
Hi, Dave. This is Steve Stearns from OutsideHealthAndFitness.com, and I'm answering the December question, which is, if I only had one podcast to listen to, what would I listen to? Well, for me, it would be Latest in Paleo, and this is a show that's a weekly show hosted by Angelo Coppola, where he plays clips and he digs through all of the latest health and nutrition news that's out there and comments on it and really brings a good balanced perspective to what's out there in the news. And he just does an amazing job of simplifying things and breaking things down so that it's easy to understand. And man, I'll tell you, I get so much great information from this podcast that I can use on a daily basis. I just love it. I can't wait for it to come out. And Latest in Paleo is great for me because it really ties into my show, which is Outside Health and Fitness, where we talk about fun ways to stay active and healthy outside. So I hope I passed the assignment, Dave. Thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. I love what you do over there at School of Podcasting, and happy holidays.
Steve from Outside Health and Fitness. Did you notice the key phrase there? He gives me something I can use every day. Are you guys getting these little nuggets? This is giving us the target. We're finding out what's connecting with people, and then we're going to go and try to find something that people can use every day that make people laugh. If we go back to Daniel J. Lewis, right? If it's a way to connect by sharing stories, by giving content. This is why I loved this particular thing. It's a lot of work. I'll tell you at the end of this. Wow, is this a lot of work? But it's a lot of fun. Next up, my buddy Eric. Take it away.
Hi, Dave. My name is Eric, and I wanted to let you know about my favorite podcast.
All right.
It is the Andy Stanley Leadership Podcast. You can find it at northpoint.org/podcasts with an S. They have a few different podcasts listed on their resource page there. My favorite is the Andy Stanley Leadership Podcast. It is a monthly podcast, and man, is it fantastic.
Did you hear that? Monthly. All right. So now we're going to find out why. How does something that's only monthly connect so deep that Eric is like, no, this is it. This is the one you got to listen to. Check this out.
It is loaded with all kinds of amazing information every single month. And Andy has this unique ability, this gift really, of taking very complex leadership principles, boiling them down to a nugget, to something that's very memorable, so it's very portable. You can take it with you, and this works whether you're a leader in the marketplace, whether you're a leader amongst your peers, in your family, It doesn't matter. These things are great. He just does such a great job, and it's very inspiring. My name is Eric, and I don't have a podcast, but I'm building one. We plan to launch our podcast January 24th, 2014. It will, right now, the working title is School of Parenting. And yeah, it will be located through our brand new membership website, FamilyLifeUniversity.org. Thanks a lot for putting this list together. I look forward to hearing it and reading it and discovering some new podcasts. Thanks for all you do. You have been a huge inspiration and a major source of help. I just really appreciate everything you do. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Eric, dude, 2014 is going to be a good year. I'm telling you true. Very, very cool. So glad that you are launching your podcast, and realize you can't get better at something until you start it. And I probably won't get to it today. I've got some insights into membership sites, because I said last week I'm going to start redoing the School of Podcasting. I got to tell you this. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. That's I'm getting off track. We're here to learn about podcasts, but that's what's coming up in the future. Next up, one of the queens of podcasting. This lady is everywhere. I mean, you cannot go 3 pages on a website without seeing the one, the only. Coming on the show, by the way, in 2014, Miss Eileen.
Hi, Dave. This is Eileen from the Miss Eileen Speaks podcast over at MissEileenSpeaks.com, and I'm calling to tell you my all-time favorite Can't Live Without It podcast.
And I got to ask a question. I'm going to interrupt. Is anybody else smiling? There's something about Miss Eileen that I just smile when I hear her voice. She's just got that lovely, pleasant, I love her. Anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to ask, is anybody else smiling? Because I am.
And I was going to pick the School of Podcasting, but I'm not going to do that, only because it just doesn't seem creative enough for me.
Good.
So I'm going to say the official Libsyn podcast, known as The Feed, is my favorite. Can't do without podcast. I love listening to Elsie. She's just a wonderful spirit that can brighten up your day. Rob always comes on and gives us all the nitty gritty behind the scenes details and stats about Libsyn that I just can't live without, because I'm just a stats junkie. What can I tell you? Well, anyway, Happy New Year to you and to all your listeners. I'll talk to you soon, Dave. Peace.
Peace. Miss Eileen. Can you see her like dropping the mic and walking off the stage? I can. Love Miss Eileen. Coming on the show next year. Yeah, The Feed is a great podcast. Next up, new member of the School of Podcasting this year. Super great guy. Came in. Great set of pipes. Great guy. And here is Remy.
Hey, Dave, it's Rem checking in from the Sci-Fi Movie Podcast at sci-fi-moviepodcast.com. And I would like to submit my favorite podcast. And I have to tell you, it was a pretty tough choice narrowing it down to just one. My favorite podcast is the Walking Dead podcast by Robin Pearson from the TVcritic.org website. Now, Robin does several podcasts, including Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dexter. He has all of his podcasts on his website at the tvcritic.org website. Now, what makes the Walking Dead podcast from Robin Pearson my favorite? Several things, but first and foremost, I really enjoy his intelligent discussion of the show and how he reviews each episode. He talks about the characters, what makes the plot line work, what makes the characters work. He talks about elements that don't work in a particular episode or in a particular story arc. And then he touches on the unknown things, plot points or elements that really can't be classified at the time and may or may not pay off in the future of the series. The production style is amazingly simple and effective, no flashy intros and extras, and the majority of the show is just Robin talking with a great English accent. He reads email submissions, plays audio feedback, and he usually drops a clip or two in from the show, but that's about it. Very minimal, but very entertaining and educational, and that's why I look forward to Robin Pearson's show on The Walking Dead on the TV Critic each week.
Check that out. In-depth analysis educational, entertaining. Just saying.
The website is thetvcritic.org. And I really have to thank Robin because it was his review style that I adopted from my podcast, the Sci-Fi Movie Podcast, at sci-fi-moviepodcast.com. Like Robin's show, the Sci-Fi Movie Podcast tries to dig deeper into the content, and in our case, sci-fi movies, and look at what worked, what didn't work, and how a particular sci-fi movie might affect our culture, how it may have shaped the ideas about the future for us, and how technology could be used, or possibly how technology might end up using us. Skynet. The Sci-Fi Movie Podcast is for people who love sci-fi, but also for those who are interested in science and technology and how they may influence our culture. It's hosted by myself, Rem, and my two sci-fi cohorts, Jonathan and Ian. And you can find us at sci-fi-moviepodcast.com. Use a dash between the sci and fi. You can leave the dash in, take it out. Both will take you to the same place. And Dave, I also want to take a moment to thank you and wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and much happiness and prosperity in 2014. And I'm looking forward to meeting you and shaking your hand at New Media Expo in January. Thanks again, Dave, and all the best in the new year.
Likewise, my friend, definitely looking forward to shaking your hand. Really, are you guys seeing this now? Are we starting to see what's connecting with people, things like that? And here again, we hear where Rem said, I like the way the guy does that in his podcast, takes it, tweaks it, makes it his own, doesn't copy it exactly, and then uses it in his podcast. Very, very cool. All right, next up, Kevin, my buddy Shrek. Here he is.
Hi, Dave. It's Kevin Scullion here from the Passing Places podcast in Scotland.
All right, is that just not the coolest? I'm sorry. I get giddy when I hear accents from across the pond. Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hi, Dave. It's Kevin Scullion here from the Passing Places podcast in Scotland. My favourite podcast currently, it's quite a mouthful. It's the Astrological Society of the Pacific. Release a series of astronomy lectures. You can find them on iTunes. They're called the Silicon Valley Astronomy Lectures series, or on their website at astrosociety.org/silicon-valley-astronomy-lectures. Now, for me, one of the great things about podcasts is that you can go deep on a subject at a level that you can't find on television or radio at the best of times. And these lectures are provided by leading scientists from NASA and academics and astronauts, etc. And they're presented to the public, so they're not difficult to understand, but they're very comprehensive, usually an hour and a half long, and I just can't get enough of them. So that's my favourite podcast at the moment.
Did you hear that? An hour to an hour and a half long, and he can't get enough of them. When you find your target audience, they're just going to want more. Very, very cool.
And if you're looking for my podcast, it's at www.bonnietours.com. It's called Passing Places Around Scotland, and it's all about my travels around the country. And finally, Dave, I just wanted to wish you a very, very prosperous 2014. You really do deserve it. It was you who inspired me in February of 2013 to get into podcasting, and I'm just about to record episode 37. So thank you. I can't thank you enough, and all the very best for 2014. Thanks.
Dude, thank you for sharing. Thank you for, wow, just very, very cool. It's always fun. It's a global audience, people, and that's just living proof right there. I mean, Rem's in Canada and scattered all over the place, and very, very cool. So next up, we have another one from Dustin.
Hey, Dave, this is Dustin Downhauer. My favorite podcast is This Is Your Life by Michael Hyatt. You can find it at michaelhyatt.com, and it's a podcast about intentional leadership. It's my favorite podcast of all time right now because I love the way that Michael takes leadership and breaks it down and simplifies the concepts of leadership. Sometimes it can be difficult, and he makes it easy for leaders to understand in the corporate world, in ministry, and just everyday life, and even in leading your family. So that's why I love his show, and I hope others will check it out too. It's awesome.
There you go.
Now, in regards to my wife and I's show, it's called Life Lessons, and you can subscribe to the show at definingmomentstv.com. Our podcast is dedicated to helping you find meaning in life's smallest moments. It's our goal to help you discover the significant messages hidden within everyday life. So come check us out, definingmomentstv.com.
There you go. Thank you very much, Dustin. I agree with you. That is a great podcast. Great book. If you haven't read Michael Hyatt's book, Platform, I'm going to hunt you down and politely and lovingly smack you about the head and face. I'm just saying, it's a great book. You got to check it out. We're rounding third, going home here. Next up, Eric K. Johnson, the one, the only podcast talent coach. Take it away, Eric.
Hey, Dave, it's Eric K. Johnson of Podcast Talent Coach. My podcast helps podcasters transform information into engaging entertainment and turn their podcast into powerful, profitable relationships. Great end of the year show here, my friend. Hey, my favorite podcast happens to be the 48 Days podcast with Dan Miller. I love the business ideas that Dan provides, the overall optimism, and the entrepreneurial encouragement that Dan provides every week on his show. It's the 48 Days podcast, and that's the one I can't miss each and every week. Oh, besides yours. Love your show, Dave. Can't wait to work together again. Have a great 2014, and we'll see you at New Media Expo out in Vegas.
Yes, we will. That's going to be a lot of fun. Again, if I don't know if it's too late to buy a ticket at this point, go out to schoolofpodcasting.com/NM as in Mary X, New Media Expo, NMX. Use the coupon code SOP20 to save 20% off. And if you can't go, you can still buy a virtual ticket, so you get all the recordings from that. So again, schoolofpodcasting.com/NMX. Use the coupon code SOP20. And that leads us to me. And before I say, not that it's any big deal who mine is, I'm just me. I did want to play. I started this idea. I'm going to dig back through this as we're doing this. I started the idea of clips of the year, and I thought I would play some of those real quick. Here's one from Ray Edwards.
I love doing this show. I love it. People ask me, Ray, do you do the podcast because it makes you money? How do you monetize your podcast? I have to be honest with you and tell you that the reason I started doing the podcast had nothing to do with that. Now, it does make me money, and I highly recommend that if you are in business, that you integrate podcasting into your marketing. But the reason I did it, and the reason I do it and have been doing it now for 64 weeks in a row without fail, is because I love connecting with you, talking with you, and sharing things that I hope will make your life better.
There you go. RayEdwards.com. I have a note here. Pat Flynn. Now I quit. This is from April.
I did speak twice, actually, once in a solo session and then on a panel, both times about podcasting. Podcasting became one of the major themes during the conference. It was mentioned as one of the hottest things to do in 2013 as far as content marketing and building relationships with your audience. Everyone was buzzing about the idea of podcasting.
There you go. Pat Flynn. You can find him at smartpassiveincome.com. Top podcaster. Also be at New Media Expo. This is Norm from Westwood One from the New Media Show.
In a variety of programs, we can put together a package for an advertiser that fulfills all of those frequency needs. And we have found, since most of our support traditionally has come from direct response advertisers, by that I mean the .coms and the 1-800 numbers where there's a call to action and they need you to go, access their website or make a telephone call right now. Those kinds of marketers, especially with the data that we have, can tell which spots are pulling for them and which commercial spots are not.
Right.
And they move their spots around from program to program all the time. But what they have found, which is a great selling proposition for us to Madison Avenue advertisers, is that podcasts, the right podcasts, deliver huge results and huge responses, better than traditional radio or television. And that's the reason why they spend a lot of money and a lot of shows and have on a continuing basis for years.
There you go. Connect better than radio. And we're kind of seeing why. We're hearing about the connection that people are making. That's from the New Media Show with Rob and Todd over at newmediashow.com. Michael Stelzner on how hot is podcasting.
This is going to shock a lot of you. Podcasting, bar nothing in our study, is the hottest thing in 2013, period.
There you go. A little Cliff Ravenscraft in the background going, woo! Social Media Examiner, Michael Stelzner. And, if you're looking to start a podcast, 2014, go over to howtopodcast.com, go to schoolofpodcasting.com, pick the way you want to learn, and I will help you get there. This next clip is from Rick Mulready. He does the Inside Social Media podcast, and he's interviewing a guy from Coca-Cola. Huge amounts of info here for podcasters.
So you talked a lot already about content, and I want to, the next couple of questions here, I want to talk about content, and the content that you guys put out within social media rarely contains salesy type messages. Can you talk about, that strategy and why you guys have that approach?
Yeah, so we have a fans first approach, which is ultimately our consumers own our social spaces. They own the brand. They own our Facebook page. They own our LinkedIn profile. So everything that we want to put in front of those audiences, we want it to have shared value. So if you give me 5 minutes to read a Coca-Cola Journey article, or you give me 30 seconds to watch a short video, or 5 seconds to read a Twitter post, I want you as the consumer and the reader to get something from that. It doesn't necessarily mean that Coke has to get something for that from that exchange. So our goal is to be of service, not try to sell you stuff.
Gotcha. And speaking of all that, creating the content, the problem for small businesses is that it tends to be time consuming and it tends to be resource intensive. Can you give us maybe a few tips for trying to simplify content creation for small businesses?
Honestly, I don't think you can. I mean, you can develop smart processes that make it more efficient, but creating good content's hard. And I don't think that there's a shortcut to that. And it takes money, and more importantly, it takes a lot of time. I think for a small business, the thing to focus on is, what value are you giving to your consumers who are taking the time to follow you? So, if you own a corner hardware store, do short how-to videos, something that's locally relevant and that's valuable. But that doesn't necessarily mean that creating those short videos is easy and doesn't take time and doesn't take money, because it does. And I think we're entering an age where content's king. But the greatest lie we sometimes tell ourselves is that what I want to talk about is what a consumer wants to read about, and that's very rarely true. And also that content is cheap.
What do you mean by that, the content is cheap?
No, I think that's a lie that we sometimes tell ourselves, because it's media, it's free, or creating great content for Facebook is going to be cheap, because it's not. Because if you look what people want to share, it's a video that sparks an emotion or makes you laugh or is funny or makes you cry. It's a really beautiful photograph. It's a really interesting piece of sound. Those aren't necessarily cheap and easy to pull together.
That's probably clip of the year right there. Just somebody breaking it down, saying, look, it's going to take time. It's not going to be easy. It takes a lot of effort. But we've seen how you can connect with people when you do that. Last couple of clips here I have in my folder. This one's Andrew Zarian from the New Media Show.
Something that I've noticed over the last maybe the last 6 months or to a year, is that more non-techie people are getting involved in podcasts. And I'm not talking about the comedy podcast, which everybody's doing, and in the technical stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, every regular day people doing a podcast. One of my friends, she doesn't do podcasting. She doesn't really listen to podcasting. She got into it because she got pregnant, and she started doing a weekly, 20-minute podcast on how it's going for her in her pregnancy. And the thing has gotten really big. And she said she's getting like 1,000 downloads a week. And this is someone that has no concept of analytics and SEO and a website. She just started putting it out there, and people are watching it. So I think stuff like that is going to be almost like the future of what everyday podcasts are going to be like. It's going to be very niche, very specific audiences that are tuning in to watch these things.
Like metal detecting podcasts. How cool is that? Niche down, baby. All right, this one I'm putting in here, and then we're going to wrap things up. I realize this is a monsterly long episode. This one made me laugh. This is from Jay Moore, More Stories, interviewing David Lee Roth.
I was on the airplane and a fella sat down next to me. I will not say his name. He's a very familiar actor. And we started talking.
If I guess it, though, you got to tell me I'm right.
No, I can't do that.
All right, fair enough.
And we talked, and
Clint Howard,
and we started talking about girlfriends, and he told me that he had banged Paris Hilton. And I spent the entire...
Well, that narrows it down.
I spent...
Wow. Now we all know who it is. Why don't you just say his name?
There you go. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, Dave. Like, I really appreciate the audacity to podcast with Daniel J. Lewis. I really appreciate podcasterstudio.com. I always forget to say the .coms. With Ray Ortega. Those two guys are my buddies, and I love them to death because they push me. You know, it's always like, all right, what list is Daniel coming out with this week? 13 ways podcasters can, it's always something that I go, wow, I didn't think of that. And it's always well thought out, well produced, well laid. It's just awesome. And I was like, all right, man, Daniel's raising the bar. Now what am I going to do? And then Ray will come out, and Ray will find like this FET head thing, this little, like, I don't know, whatever, and you plug it in, it makes your mic. I'm like, well, I never even heard of these things, and I've been in audio forever. Ray, the number one reason people pod fade, they're called babies. And Ray has a wonderful little baby daughter. And so Podcaster Studio is a bit sporadic, and Ray will be the first one to say that. But man, when Ray comes out, he comes out swinging hard. So I love those guys. I definitely listen to those two on a regular basis, and I love them because they push me. I love WTF, and we all know what that stands for. Mark Maron came out of the gate great. He kind of hit a lull there where I was getting ready to unsubscribe, and this year he interviewed Dick Van Dyke. He interviewed a bunch of really old comedians. Jonathan Winters, Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner. These are guys that when I was like a little kid, where I remember watching the Dick Van Dyke Show in reruns when it was in black and white, things like that. And that was really cool because it was inside. He interviewed Larry King, and Larry King is kind of a grumpy old weenie, for lack of a better phrase. Really good interviews, but it's inconsistent. When he's really good, Mark is really, really good. And when it's really bad, it's like, who is he interviewing? I don't care. And this guy's boring. Right. So that's not it. New Media Show is definitely up there. But here's the thing. The one day I was updating my phone, and this sound came on my phone.
Welcome to Podcast Talent Coach with Eric K. Johnson, helping you turn your information into engaging entertainment and your podcasts into powerful relationships. Get involved with the show. Send your email to coach@podcasttalentcoach.com.
The biggest smile on my face. And that's when I went, this is it. This is the one that I was kind of like, I can't wait to hear what Eric is going to talk about today. He's not your typical podcast about podcasting, because he's kind of not. He's talking about content. And here's what it does. It makes me think. It makes me wish I had more time to podcast, because a lot of the stuff I want to do requires a little more thinking ahead. I'm usually thinking about next week's show about 2 days before next week's show. I have an idea during the week, but I would like to plan out what the next 5 episodes are, and I could do that. I think that would be a great idea. He got me back into listening to my show. Like this week, I will listen to 2 weeks ago podcast of mine, and I will sit down and listen to it from a listener's point of view. As they say, you got to watch the game tape. And so that is my show right now that I'm like, man, that's one that I'm like, okay. And just like the one woman was saying, I want to take notes when that comes on. This is one I'm like, all right, this is good. And for anybody that's been saying, Dave, your show, I don't know what you're doing. That's what I've been doing. I've been listening to Podcast Talent Coach. Guy's got great, I'll give him a plug. He's got great worksheets you can download. Just give me your email address. He doesn't spam you. And he's a good friend. He's a good guy and a nice guy. And we've kind of had some conversations behind the scenes. He's going to be coming on Show 400, which is right around the corner. We're going to be doing a special show for that one about changing your format. That is coming up in 11 episodes, I think it is, whatever it is. But that's my show. And that's because it's me. And next year, maybe something different. Who knows? But those are the ones that I really do. I mean, there are more. If I looked at my phone, I'd be like, oh, wait, no, I didn't talk about, because 200 Churches is another one I really, really like. If you're into churchy kind of things, let me look at my phone. He said, pulling it up. Let me go back. Some of the comedian ones I'm just about done with, though. Entrepreneur on Fire, Michael Hyatt. Let's see here. What else? Let's Reverse Obesity. The Unnamed Church with Ken Blanchard is a cool one. Yeah, I should be named. Oh, WordPress plugins A to Z. How could I forget that one? That's another one. That's definitely top 3. Wow, how did I forget that one? I listen to that one all the time. I'll quit mentioning them because I'm going to forget somebody. I still listen to The Bitterest Pill. That's probably The Bitterest Pill and The Rock and Roll Geek Show are probably the 2 shows I've listened to the longest because I've listened to them since late or early 2005. So you've heard how podcasting connects with people. You hear the loyalty. You hear how you're helping change people's lives. You're making their drive to work when they feel like you're right there in the passenger seat. Brothers and sisters, are you ready? I'm getting on my platform. You hear, not from me, from these other people, how you are in the car with them. You're with them when they're walking the dog, when they're mowing the lawn, when they're on the treadmill. You're inspiring them. You are changing their lives. He's pounding on the podium. Can you hear that? You are changing their lives for the better. How cool is that? How cool is that? That little old you can sit there and talk into a microphone and freaking on the other side of the world, somebody is going, yeah, wow, whoa, I got to take notes. And this is where I say, I know you have something to say. I know you do. You've got life experience that could help people avoid stuff. I got life experience right here. Listen to this box, right? I just got my business cards today for New Media Expo. Yeah, my name's way too small on these. So next time I'm going to order the print that sends the thing, because the online print, yeah, I got 250 business cards that I really don't want to use, right? And you might have some sort of life experience that could help people. You might have a sense of humor that can make people laugh, like Daniel J. Lewis. You might have education, things that you can share with people. By God, get off your couch and quit. Turn off the TV, turn off the radio, fire on your microphone and start a podcast. Amen. Thank you. Because to me, one of my clips isn't a clip. One of the things I do the Logical Weight Loss podcast. I'm actually losing weight. I'm down almost 8 pounds. And, I had somebody that said, I've lost 100 pounds because of you. I had a bunch of people here today say, Dave, you helped me. You have no idea what that means to me. It really, just wow. But it's great, and I appreciate that. But I look at it again as, if I can get you to do this, and you have that passion, and you heard the Coke guy, good content isn't easy. It doesn't come free. It costs time. Okay, let's give that. This is going to be like the longest podcast episode ever. I got all these clips in, and I had them. I went to transcribeme.com, and I had your audios transcribed to make my show notes at $1 a minute. Yeah, this is an expensive show as well in this case. I'll be talking about transcriptions in a future episode. I used Auphonic, AUPHONIC.com. Now, this is not a service I would recommend. I uploaded an hour of Ask the Podcast Coach show, which you can find in iTunes as well. That's my live show with me and Jim Cullison. An hour-long show took 3 hours to process. But what it did is you heard where some of those were phone numbers. Some of them were phone calls. Some of them had been phoned in, things like that. Different levels of quality. And Auphonic not only levels out the sound, but it also removes some of the noise. So I had my hand on the volume knob. I didn't have to adjust it a whole lot for people's different things like that. So that's another thing I did with this. But it's not easy. It's not cheap. And the other thing, my biggest worry through this whole thing was, please don't let me lose anybody's message. And I don't think I did. I think I did a pretty good job of that. So it's been a fun year. And next year is only going to get better. If you want to join my Podcasting in 6 Weeks class, starts January 18th. January 18th. Now, who should take this class? Somebody who's serious about it.
My name is David Tupper from Kids Adventures Hawaii, and I wanted to take a minute to talk about what Dave provided me when I attended the How to Podcast in 6 Weeks class. It was a terrific time where a group of folks just like me that wanted to dip their feet into podcasts, wanted to try it out. Dave took us step by step each week through different subjects and different key points that we needed to know and explained to us how to do this in layman's terms. And there was no bad questions. All the questions we asked Dave were explained in a way where we could understand what he was talking about. I always wanted to try podcasting. There's been some great podcasts out there that I've been inspired by. I've been able to take my love for doing adventures and doing things with my daughter on Oahu and put it into a podcast. And I've met some amazing people through that. But Dave was able to explain to me how iTunes works. Do I need a special account, or is it normal? Or how does the soundboard work? What's a mixer? What does that do? How does this help my podcast? And not just the technical piece of it, but also more of what to say, how to say it. For 6 weeks, Dave really poured his heart into us to help us grasp this, all the questions. He was really at our beck and call, and it provided that personal touch into how to podcast. Dave is still my mentor. I still feel completely free to ask him anything, and he gets right back to me. Amazing mentor. And it's one of those things that whatever you try to do in life, you need a mentor. Dave has been that great mentor. So I highly recommend, if you're thinking about dipping your toe into podcasting and trying this out, Dave's How to Podcast in 6 Weeks is a great opportunity for you to do just that.
Dave, thank you so much, my friend. And send some of that warm weather my way. And that is going to do it, folks. 2013 was a great year in podcasting. Podcasting has come a long way since 2004. And I know 2014 has a lot of cool things coming our way. Can't wait to tell you about those. Coming up in future episodes, we'll be having, of course, Spotlight podcast. We'll have Because of My Podcast. If you have one of those, Because of My Podcast stories, thank you for those who have sent them in. I'll be using them in the future. Always looking for those. Always looking for a last 5 and 5. You know, what were the last 5 podcasts you listened to? Not so much what were your favorites. That's what we talked about today. What were the last 5 you listened to? Always looking for those. Always looking for questions. And I'm always looking to help you start a podcast. Speaking of that, Dave mentioned the Podcasting in 6 Weeks class. We should mention, if you want to sign up for that, howtopodcast.com. Can't wait to work with you starting January 18th. Thanks to everybody. Happy New Year. Be safe. See you in 2014. Take care. And for the last time in 2013, class is dismissed. I will see you on the inside. And for those of you in Vegas, can't wait to shake your hand. God bless. Take care.